Hello, and welcome back to Not Till Now, a podcast about courage and all things firsts. Today's a special one because not only does it mark the final episode of season 1, but I am joined by a very special friend and human, Tara Comstock. Tara is an artist, hairstylist, mom of 2, and one of the kindest, most quietly influential people I know. For the last 2 years, she and her husband, David, have been helping lead and shape Mosaic Church here in Littleton. I attend there with my family, and it's amazing. While David may be the one people see on stage each week, Tara is one of those rare people whose impact is felt everywhere. Through conversations, hospitality, prayer, friendship, and countless behind-the-scenes moments, she has helped create a community where people feel seen, welcomed, and cared for. Tara attended the debut of Not Till Now as a supporter of David, who was one of our speakers that night. But when she arrived early to the venue, little did she know that something waiting in the lobby would stop her in her tracks. She later told me what that night stirred in her and what it awakened and what has happened since. So I've been dying to recap on all of this because I know that there is someone listening who needs to hear her story. So Tara, I'm absolutely thrilled you're here.
I am thrilled to be here. Thank you so much for asking me to do this.
Oh, I'm so happy this is happening. So let's start at the beginning. And so you are originally from Illinois.
Yes.
I want to know what little Tara was like.
Well, I grew up in a small town. When I was young, we lived in town. So it was a lot of, cruising around the neighborhood with my friends and doing cartwheels in the lawn. And it truly was the drinking out of the hose and staying out all day until, the street lights came on and then we would go home. So I was always on an adventure and riding my bike. That was like the greatest thing ever. You have freedom for the first time and you get to go over to the neighbors and around the neighborhood. And yeah, I loved it. It was really an enjoyable time. And then we moved out to the country when I was around 11. And so a lot of my time was spent in the woods.
Oh,
Yeah, super adventurous and climbing trees and playing in the little, the stream and picking up rocks and bugs and all of that. So yeah, I've spent a lot of time alone, but I enjoyed it.
oh my gosh. I feel like we would have been buddies when we were little. And I remember you telling me that when I was talking about my childhood. You were like, oh, we would have been friends. Like,
Yes.
The rocks and the bugs and being alone in nature and streams. I was obsessed with streams. I don't know.
Same.
I loved them.
It was very much like imagination ran wild.
Yes. Okay. So I was about to ask you when creativity first entered your life, but was it there all along?
All along. Yeah. Even as a really young child, preteen, I would spend a lot of time with my grandma. And she had these super awesome colored pencils. And so I would spend hours upon hours at her house just doodling, drawing. And I would, okay, this kind of dates me a bit, but whatever. The funnies in the newspaper.
Oh, yeah.
I spend hours just drawing them over and over and over again, like Snoopy and Garfield. And I loved it. I spent a lot of time doing that. And to this day, if I see a peach colored pencil, it just takes me right back to that time.
Oh my gosh. That's so funny that you mentioned that because when I would spend time at my grandma's, she would give me paper and crayons, and they would always have some sort of tablecloth that was embroidered, and I would color on the paper, and it would bring up the pattern. And
I love that.
Yeah, I loved doing that. But
Yeah.
okay, so that's cool. And then art became something important enough that you decided to study it. And so I want to know what drew you there and what did that season of life look like?
Well, when I was in high school, I took a lot of art classes, loved them. And, I was in a really small town of maybe 1,500 people. So to be creative wasn't necessarily common, I would say. I really loved fashion. And this is like the Midwest, Middle America. And so I was going through my interested in fashion stage, and I would do crazy stuff with my hair. And then after I graduated high school, I went to community college and I started studying art. I was going to get my associates in art, and I wanted to explore what it looked like to do that for a living. During that season, I took every art class imaginable, and I loved it. I really couldn't even hone in on what would have been one single area that I enjoyed. I tried everything.
Wow.
And unfortunately, I took an astronomy class, and if anyone has ever taken astronomy, the math is ridiculous. So I was failing this astronomy class, and I was getting all A's in my art classes, but I didn't have the support or the direction, and so I got scared and I dropped out.
Oh,
Yeah, I dropped out because of one silly class where the math just took over. So yeah, I dropped out of art school, and then that is actually when I went to cosmetology school and I began my career as a hairstylist.
wow. Okay. I resonate with this again because I took astronomy freshman year of college. Uh, I did not do well in that one. And for some reason signed up for calculus, got like for the first time in my life, got like really bad grades and wanted to drop out too, right? Like after that first
Yeah, it's
semester, I'm
scary.
like,
Yeah.
it's like it's it says so much about what perfection can do to us, right? Like
Yeah.
you were getting all A's in the thing that you
Yeah.
thrived in, and then the one thing that just didn't fit,
Right.
that was the thing that you're like, well, I'm not good enough. I can't do this.
Yeah.
That's interesting. But
Mhm.
I firmly believe that everything is connected and,
Yeah.
God leads us on these paths for a reason. And we'll talk more about your art. But you became a hairstylist and then you've lived in a ton of different cities. I want to
Mhm.
know, yeah, take us around the country where you've lived. Um, and where did you meet David within there? And
Okay.
just what did you take from hopping around to all these
Yeah.
cities?
Okay. Oh, that's such a good question.
Lots
It's a
of them.
lot.
I know.
Yeah, a lot. We've lived in like, I don't know how many different states, maybe six or so. So it's been a lot. But I started out in Illinois, and like I said, it was from a small town. When I started to do hair, it just wasn't enough for me in that small town. I just wanted more creativity with it. And so I moved to Chicago, and I was there for good majority of my 20s. And I really got to explore big city life, and I got to explore the creativity in the hair world. Got to travel to London. I did a bunch of
Oh,
really fun things with hair. We did these hair shows at midnight in nightclubs. It was really fun. And at that point, I love fashion as well. And it was just this really fun, exciting time. And then, unfortunately, during that time, I developed an eating disorder.
no
And,
way.
it was almost like I was trying to fit into this high profile, exclusive category in hairdressing, and I was amongst these really great hairdressers, but coming from a small town, it didn't feel like me. I felt like I was trying to keep up and trying to be the appearance of this whole lifestyle. It got to be quite a bit, and then I had the opportunity to move to Arizona, and I thought if I moved out of that scene, that I might be able to pull away from the expectations and be able to maybe get a little bit healthy. So I
Mm-hmm.
moved to Arizona, and then that is where David and I met.
Aw.
And we were there for maybe 10 years, I think. The time frame gets all jumbled because we moved around so much that everything kind of flows together. From Arizona, we moved to Nevada, and that was where in Arizona we started the adoption process with our daughter. It was just a crazy scenario, but we ended up moving to Nevada so that we could continue the adoption in the state that she was born. And so we did that. We lived there for 3 or 4 years. And then from Nevada, we moved to Texas. We were in Texas for a few years. And then from Texas, we moved to St. Louis, Missouri. And then from Missouri, we moved to Arizona. And then from Arizona, we moved to Colorado, where we are currently. So it
Wow.
has been a lot of hopping around in all of those scenarios. We were really trying to listen to God where God wanted us, and we were saying yes to a lot of the things that He put in front of us. We said yes to adopting our daughter. We said yes to planting churches and ministry life. We just said yes to a lot of different things. So to encapsulate all of that would be hard to do.
Oh, yeah. No, I know. But you mentioned something interesting yesterday because I send these questions beforehand and I'm like, hey, where all have you lived and what have you taken from each place? You're like, that's just too much. I'm like, that is fair. That is fair. But then you were like, there is something that I have realized. You're like, there are pieces of me that I left behind in some of these places. And I'm curious what those were.
Yeah. Another good question. I feel like as our journey unfolded, it was going so quickly. Every time you move, you're relearning, okay, what is the area like? Where am I at now? What am I going to do for work? What are my qualifications? And sometimes we were in a little bit of survival mode. So some of the parts of me that felt safe enough to be creative fell to the wayside. And then, and then it was getting used to being a parent of a 1 year old. I was thrown right in the middle of, wow, you have a toddler and this is like your first time being a parent. So it was a lot of learning, and I put a lot of my needs or who I was kind of on the back burner and started parenting and really tried to be all in as to what that looked like. Along with, we were in ministry and what ministry life looked like and what that required of me. That kind of left more of maybe, what my hopes or desires were. You kind of push those aside a little bit more. And then some places that we lived, it was just strictly survival and trying to do our best to make things work and honor God with our lives. Some church settings were different than others. And so it was just a lot of maneuvering and trying to be in the moment of where we were and doing the best we could. So there wasn't a lot of free time for me to think about parts of me that I had let go of
Yeah.
and being able to embrace those again.
Right. Yeah.
I think it happens to a lot of people, regardless of whether you move or you don't move. I think life happens and we end up, farther down the road going, wow, I used to love to do these things. Why don't I do them anymore?
Yeah. I, yep, I resonate with so much of what you said about becoming a mom and starting motherhood with a toddler because we adopted as well.
Hmm.
And the moving piece, I mean, I lived in Germany for 2 years with David and then coming back, yeah, there were a lot of things that we still look back and we're like, oh man, there were pieces of that life that we do miss. And I can't wait to get into more of what you have returned to now that you do have more space and life has slowed down a little bit more and your kids are older. But first, I don't think I know where you came to know God. Where did that begin for you?
Hmm. I feel like because I spent a lot of time in nature and by myself, I always had a sense that God was real. I grew up somewhat Catholic, but we weren't really practicing. So I had heard the language of God. So when I became an adult and I moved from Chicago to Arizona, I was kind of more on a spiritual quest. And I knew there was more, but I didn't know what it was. And then that's when David and I met. And I think you guys may have talked about his story and Thump and all of that. And I was a part of that. When we got married, I was slowly realizing that I was married to a drug addict. I don't know if I even knew the full grip that it had on him at that time.
Yeah.
But as I was learning it, I would go into the bathroom in our apartment and I would close the door and I would just cry on the bathroom floor.
Oh man.
And it was really crying out in agony. And it was for the person that I loved because I knew the situation we were in was outside of my control. There was nothing I could do that was going to change this.
Right.
And um, and I think that, I don't believe we can change someone. I believe that that has to come from God and within themselves.
Yeah.
And so I would lock myself in the bathroom and I would cry on the floor. Sometimes for hours, I would just lay there. And in David's story, he talks about how he passed out on the bathroom floor and he heard from God. And when he woke up in the morning from his 3-day binge and said, "Hey, we need to go to church," I feel like my heart was already there. Like I have been paving the way through through tears and through crying out to God. And I knew in that moment that God heard my prayers. And that blew me away. I mean, the God of the universe, heard my prayers for my husband and was intervening in this situation. And it just rocked my world. I just knew that my life from that point on was never going to be the same again. And so we handed our lives over wholeheartedly to God and what his plan was for us. And we just started seeking him. That was a definite turning point in letting go of, even at that point, I still had an eating disorder and
Okay.
I wasn't fully ready to deal with that. I think, subconsciously, we all kind of know what's in the background running, but I wasn't prepared to let go of that quite yet. And, over the years, God did a work in my heart to bring me to a place of my identity being rooted in Christ. And I no longer had to strive for that perfectionism and that control that an eating disorder was feeding me.
Man, thank you for sharing all of that. It's really fascinating to hear your side and to know that, especially on a bathroom floor, like who knew that bathroom floors were so sacred and so much could happen
Right?
there
Right?
for both of you. God literally meets us everywhere. Nothing is off limits, and that
Yeah.
is amazing that you were praying for him and he heard you. And so you both decided to go to church together.
Mhm.
So what was the church like that you went to first?
We went to Calvary Chapel, and it was in Arizona. And we literally we heard the word of God, and we heard the gospel presented clearly. And we knew, hey, that's, wow, yes. I say yes to all of that. Yes, I see my depravity. Yes, I know I need a savior. This is way outside of me. And we both said yes. And then we got baptized together.
Oh,
And yeah, we really just began our journey from there of exploring what it was like to let Jesus into those places in our life that we were hanging on to so deeply,
yeah.
those tender places in our heart, the dark places. And still to this day, it's a matter of letting God search our heart and let him dig into the places that are tender and hurting.
That brings me to my next question, which begins with a story. So I think it was our second or third time at Mosaic, and I was going through a really rough time with my health. And like David or whoever's preaching normally says at the end, hey, if you need prayer, come up to our prayer people here at the end and ask for it, and they will pray over you. And I had this little voice that was like, you should go get prayer. But I was a little, it's vulnerable. I was like, nah, 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 nah. I'm not going to do that. So Dave and I leave and we start to walk up the stairs to go get Jiwoo. But then I just felt it again. And I was like, David, you know what? I think I got to go back and get some prayer. He was like, if you need it, just go get it. Just go. Like, it's fine. Pretty sure maybe that's what happened. I don't know. I blacked out. It was a rough morning. The point here is that I go and I stand in line and I felt like I was standing there naked, and you walk by, and I didn't know you very well at the time. And you walk by and you say, hi, how are you? You know, like you always do. You're so welcoming. And I'm pretty sure I was like, I'm not good, and just fell apart. And then you were the one that sat down and prayed with me. And that was such a special morning for me, to be held and seen by you and to have you pray with me. And I mean, I don't know if I really need to share this, but I feel like I do because it was pretty crazy. But at one moment, you're like, God, you know exactly what we need. And then that's when I got a message of, get the colonoscopy. I don't know if that was God or not, but I'm thinking it probably was.
Yeah, he cares for us.
Again, he shows up on the bathroom floor and he shows up with colonoscopies. He's like, get the colonoscopy. And so I remember I pushed forward and I got it. And let's just say that it's good that I didn't delay on that end of things. But what was just so amazing about that is that even though this is about me, this represents who you are, right? Like you show up when people need you, whether they know it or not. You just have this way of being there. You have also, I mean, I'm not the only woman that you have impacted. I'm not the only person that you've been there for. You shared a little bit with us in our life group through church about how you have been stepping back in your hairstyling business and carving more time for ministry in the church, particularly the women's ministry. And I think the day that you decided to do that and you just said, okay, Lord, where do I need to be? Tell us that story about when you went to church that day and the woman in the coffee shop or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, you were meant to be there.
Yeah, there were a couple different stories in the same day. And it was the day after, David and I had decided, okay, I'm going to make this big change after nearly 40 years of being a hairstylist. And I love it, and it is rewarding. And I feel like the Lord has gifted me with the ability to be a people person and care about people. And hairdressing, I always thought, okay, well, this is maybe the only thing I can do. And I was really struggling with, Lord, if I lay down this hairstyling, what else can I do? Like, how you use me, I will trust that you have told me this, and I will walk into it, which is very scary to just hand something over like that you're so used to. And it's a safe place for me in the hairdressing behind the chair. And so the very next day, David said that there was a woman at the church who just needed someone to talk with, and she needed a shower. She had been in her car overnight. And so I was able to go and spend the day with her and talk with her and really hear her story and her heart. And she loves Jesus. And it was incredible to be able to open up our home and be there for someone and love on them and make them feel, God loves you. He sees you. We're here for you, whatever you need. And on top of that, there was a woman that I've been talking with and walking with, and she had been out and about that day, and she had heard God say to her, you need to go to Mosaic Coffee Shop and you need to get prayer. And she was like, no, I'm not going to do that. Kind of just pushed it to the background. And she kept over and over again hearing that. And she's like, well, who's even going to pray for me? And then she saw a picture of me in her head.
No.
And so she decided, okay, fine, I'll go. And if she's not there, I'm going to give it 15 minutes and I'm going to leave. And in like 5, 10 minutes after she was there, I walked in the door and she was able to ask for prayer and it was just amazing. So I say all that because it's the Holy Spirit working, guiding us, leading us, putting in places where we need to be. And it's just all glory to God for him putting all these pieces together and then putting us in the places to be able to love one another. It's like God is saying, I see you, I love you, and I'm putting this person here to show you that.
And I think the woman that you brought to your home to take a shower, didn't you also do her hair?
Well, we were talking about doing her hair, but the timing didn't work out. And so that's when we went back to the coffee shop. If I had done her hair that day, I would have missed the other woman.
Oh, that's what it was. Oh,
I totally would have missed her. That encounter would not have happened. So it was just, yeah, like think about that even. The timing of the day, the timing of the whole thing was just, yeah, it's all God and his hand moving and working, and we just have to listen for it, pay attention and follow through.
I'm in awe. I'm in total awe. Well, now I'm like thinking about, okay, so the timing of Not Till Now
Yeah.
and you showing up early, had you not shown up early
Mhm.
to be there with David because he had to come early, you would not have seen what you saw in the lobby. And there was something that was waiting for you. So let's talk about this long-awaited thing that I teased you at the beginning. So what happened before the show for you?
Yeah, so before the show, my whole mindset was, oh, I can't wait to go and support David. This is going to be great. I can't wait to just partake in this. So he went back and he was in the back, and I'm looking around in the cultural center and I see this art exhibit. And now, previously, I was not even thinking about it being a cultural center, that there was going to be art there and fun things to look at. So I'm looking and I see the exhibit called Words Matter. And I went in and I was looking around and it really hit me like a ton of bricks. Like, wow, I used to love to go to the art museum. When I lived in Chicago, I was there all the time. It was really a place of inspiration for me. I could sit and look at the paintings for hours. I love all types of art. We talked about that. So seeing this exhibit and being able to watch who a person is unfold through their artwork just hit me. Like, I really miss this. I miss being able to explore that side of myself. I miss what it feels like to sit down and do a piece of art and then, hand it over and be like, this is part of who I am.
Yeah.
It's such an expression of a person, and there's a vulnerability to it. The words matter was, there's this empowering piece to it. Like, you're saying something that you might not have been able to say any other way than
No.
through art. You're able to get to those deeper places and bring something out and then share it with the world, or not, but in this case, share it through an exhibition. And it was amazing. It was stirring something in me that I didn't even know needed to be stirred up. So that was definitely a wow moment for me.
And then there was one that you saw, you were telling me about one with a C and a bunch of different colors,
Yeah,
right?
I'm not sure. I should have written down the artist, but I stared at it for such a long time. But it was the colors and the way that it moved around the canvas. It brought me back to the experience of creating art. And yeah, it was just another wow moment for me.
And it probably brought you to your own style of art, which you recently
Uh-huh.
sent to me. And I was blown away by how much color you put into your work and how you have this amazing way of blending the colors and placing them in certain places. And um, was it a Colorado sea or was it just a letter
No,
C?
it might not have even been a C.
Oh,
It was just a repetitive pattern. that I thought was so cool.
But maybe it's almost like it was for you because of your last name, right? A C for you. I don't know.
Oh, there we
Who knows?
go. Maybe. I
I don't
love
know.
that.
Um, okay, so then you attend the show. What was happening for you while you were watching everything unfold that night?
I felt like I was on a ride and I felt all the emotions that the people were experiencing on stage, but also being out in the audience, I felt the emotions of the people around.
Yeah.
I could literally hear gasps when people said something. The audience was incredible. It's like they knew they were there holding space, creating space, encouraging and supporting the people who were sharing things for the very first time, very vulnerable, sensitive topics that normally get kind of tiptoed around.
Yeah.
But there were these powerful moments. And I've always said that people resonate more with our brokenness, our struggle, our turmoil than they do with having things together.
Oh, yeah.
Uh, so I felt like what this evening was the experience of people bringing their struggles and their life experience and sharing it with people, and the people in the audience receiving it and allowing them to truly be able to feel seen and heard and still loved.
Oh,
And so to me, that's just my heartbeat. I love that so much. And here it was in a room full of hundreds of people. It changed me. Being able to experience it in that setting was just transformational. I came home that night and I couldn't even sleep because it was like there was a buzz going on inside of me. And it was really powerful. It was so awesome. I loved your hosting and I loved your sharing and even your introductions of people. And then it all just created this space of humility and acceptance.
well, I'm so honored that you were in the room and that it was so impactful for you. And yeah, thanks for sharing all of that. And I am also so fascinated by what sparked for you after the show. There was something that you decided for yourself that had been in the back of your mind, and you're like, okay, it's time.
Yes. Well, part of stepping away from hairdressing and in my mind I was thinking, what other things would I be good at? Things would pop up on my Instagram feed about art therapy. And here's some classes on art therapy. And I thought, oh, well, I'll just click on the get more information thing and have it send me more information. And so literally sitting in my email was a description of an art therapy course and it's to become a practitioner. So not 6 years of classes to actually become an art therapist, but just a practitioner that helps facilitate for someone to come and explore the deeper things in their life that maybe they're not aware of quite yet. So, after not sleeping all night, I opened my inbox and I signed up for the class. So I'm still currently taking the class, and it has been really eye opening. What it facilitated in my life was just to spend the time daily doing a little bit of art and being creative. And what that did for me was it allowed me to get in touch with those places that I had kind of left behind, but really they're places that, you know, shaped who I am and God created me in a certain way and I've been ignoring that. Maybe because it's a little bit easier to fit in
Yeah.
and not be myself, kind of easier to hide in some ways. So yeah, I've been just exploring what that looks like to really bring these things to the surface again and let them out,
Oh my
let them
gosh.
loose.
Yeah. And returning to this piece of you when we were getting coffee, I was like, something has been different about you. Like you've always been wonderful and engaging, but there was something different. You seriously were glowing. And I remember asking you, what has changed and when did this start? And we tied it back to you getting back into art. And then when we were recently texting, I loved what you said, and I have to read it back to you. You said, I finally got to the point where I just didn't feel like myself. I realized I was neglecting my creativity, creating for the sake of creating, not for anyone else but myself. I'd been sacrificing something no one ever told me to sacrifice. I just let it disappear into the background until I realized I was fading away at my core. So, what part of the art and returning to it helped you find your way back?
I feel like it's been a process of acceptance and accepting who I am and that God loves me. God accepts me. When he looks at me, he's not disappointed. And sometimes, creativity a little bit can feel like it's too much.
Yeah.
We're sensitive. If a person's, highly creative, there's a sensitivity there to see things in a different way. And so sometimes it's, wow, that's just too much. And I think now that it's such a gift and it's accepting that, all parts of me, God loves, all parts of me. And I don't have to hide things away or not share the vulnerable things or the things that might be silly to someone else, you know.
Oh, that's incredible. I I just love this, and I love that you are coming to us from your art room. You created a room in your house to dedicate time to do your thing. When did you turn that into your creative space, and what has that been like for you?
I started going to counseling a while back, kind of digging around in some things that I guess it was time to address in my life and look back on things and be able to move through it, learn how to move forward, and put language to some things that I've been experiencing and feeling and not knowing how to communicate that. And the art therapy piece, it's just a non-invasive way of putting words to things and bringing things to the surface that you can then move through and put words to and all of that. So, yeah, it was an exploration into having a space just for myself to be able to explore all of this and have like my safe little room here where I can come. And it's just been so rewarding. And to be able to sit here and create things for just like I said, the sake of creating, not for anyone else's eyes necessarily, but for my own to enjoy those things again. And I love it. I'm in here every day. And even if it's just to sit and not, create anything, it's still being in this space brings me joy. I've got plants in here and all different types of art stuff in here. And it's inspiring and it's colorful and all the things.
So tell us what kinds of things you do like to create. What's your
Yeah.
style?
I don't even know if I have a style. I like things that are colorful. And my very favorite thing, no matter what the medium is when colors blend together and they start to make a new color. And I love that because it's endless. Blending of colors, you can do a million different things with. So I do work with the fiber arts. So a lot of yarn, I weave, I spin. And spinning is really awesome because it's the blending of the fibers together and you can get some really awesome colorways with it. And then painting, drawing, oil crayons, just alcohol inks, all of it. I mean, I love all of it.
Do you have anything nearby that you can show us on the screen?
Um, I'll just reach and grab this one. I have this
Oh, yeah.
painting
Oh,
here. And actually, this I call Ode to an English Garden. And I don't even know why, but It really just reminds me of an English garden and the time that I was in London. So, um,
Oh,
yeah, it's kind of just a feeling and a thought.
love it. Yeah, I'm with you on the blending. Anytime I do Play-Doh with Jibu, that's my favorite
Yes,
thing is to combine colors
smush
and then
together.
smash them and then see what happened. And it's always like,
Yes,
whoa, it's never the
yes,
same. And there's
I
always,
love that.
oh, it's so good. Yeah, some people can't stand the mixing of colors, but that's like what I live for when it
Me
comes to
too. Me too.
um okay, so now I'm dying to hear more about there's something you've been working on, right? You're developing something really exciting that brings together creativity and healing and mind, body, soul connection. And you were starting to tell me a little bit about that before our barbecue the other night. And I want to know more. Tell us what are you creating?
Well, there's three of us ladies that have been getting together and discussing this idea, and so it's still in the works. But we'd love to be able to have women have a place where they can come and feel known and loved and seen and heard. And what does it look like to bring God into those areas? Like to allow to create a space where God can come in and truly, you know, dig up the soil of what's underneath. And sometimes I think our lives are so busy, we don't create space for that. It's just going from one thing to the next thing. And like when we think of like a spiritual practice, a lot of times it's one thing or it's a couple things. And we do those things and we think, okay, I'm good. But my brain, the way I'm created and wired is I connect in a different way.
Yeah.
And I bet there are other people who do too. And so it's opening up this space to be able to discover, how does God connect with me? What happens when I sit in silence and solitude long enough for God to come in and get to the deeper things that have been buried for a while? Or what does it look like when I'm in the middle of creating a painting and I'm no longer worried about the things of the day. And I'm in a space where I'm just watching the colors move and I'm, putting things on canvas. And what does it look like to invite God into that? What does it look like to listen for a word or something he's trying to communicate with me, or taking a walk in nature
Oh yeah. Yeah.
and really, with all of our senses, being fully alive in that moment and paying attention and aware of what's going on around us and inside of us.
Mm.
You know, I know for a long time, someone would say, "Well, what are you feeling?" I don't know. Well, I think we get to a place where sometimes we've forgotten how to feel. We've forgotten, what does that even mean?
Hmm.
To feel. What am I feeling? How can I be direct with that and discover what that looks like? So this is kind of creating a space for digging deeper and allowing God to work in us and through us.
Oh, sign me up when it's live. I'll be there. Is it a week long retreat? I
It'll
mean, like,
Yeah, it'll probably be, 6, 7 weeks, somewhere around there.
okay.
And we just get together and discover these things. So I am really excited about it. Um, yeah, we're calling it the table. And
Ooh,
yeah, so there's going to be a lot of different things that we're exploring.
gosh, it reminds me of, I think I've heard of people going to couples counseling and they're both asked to color, right, at the same time. And a lot of times, just the act of doing that, like I know what you're developing is more of a solo act with God, but a lot happens when you're in that diffuse mode, right? Like
Yes,
when you're doing something where your mind really can start to disconnect from things, and
yes,
that is when you can be met with what you're really meant to hear. I mean, there's a reason
uh,
why people get aha moments in the shower or when they're driving or mowing the lawn or doing the dishes, because your brain is making those connections that it
Mhm.
needs to make.
Yeah.
Um,
That's the neuroscience of
yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah,
You
yeah.
know, yeah, synapses can be reformed and dysregulation can become regulated.
Yep.
And I mean, there's so many studies now that the brain can be reconnected in certain ways. It can stimulate memory.
Yeah.
It can help with depression, anxiety. There's so many amazing things that creating can do for our actual brain chemistry.
Oh, yeah. I know that you've been going to some trainings and some classes and learning a lot about trauma as well.
Hmm.
And, and I'm so excited. I don't know if that's the right word, but yeah, I am. I'm excited to. I found out that there is a trauma class at Mosaic that I'm looking forward to attending sometime because I know that I need to know a little bit more about how that works. But um curious, have you been learning anything connected to that and with art and processing?
Yeah, actually, that class at Mosaic with inviting people in who have had trauma was what inspired me to actually start counseling.
What?
Oh, yeah, that's why I actually started counseling because some of the language around the trauma responses I resonated with. And I thought, oh, wow, I think I need to dig into this a little deeper. So I actually started counseling. And at that same time, I started working with a life coach. And I was just like, give me all the things, I need all these things because I need to understand this. And so working with both of those things was part of this journey of what it looks like with the life coaching. It was the inspiration of bringing joy into my daily life and what that looked like. And then with counseling, it was putting language to I didn't even know what having a dysregulated nervous system was
Oh, right.
until I started, oh, okay, now I can put language to this. And then the art therapy piece was in a calming nature, you can actually use the creating of art or repetitive patterns to calm your mind and calm your nervous system. And I
Mm.
actually tried it out when I was flying. I
Oh,
get
cool.
really nervous and full of anxiety during flying. And I just took out my little notepad and I did these repetitive patterns and I focused on my breathing and I was able to be a lot calmer during the flight than normal. Yeah, it's kind of this putting all these pieces together and using, what I now know with art to be able to help the nervous system, help the person. We're mind, body, spirit.
Mm.
So what does it look like? We can't just take our body out of it. Our body and our emotions and our, you know, being regulated and dysregulated, like that's a real thing. That really happens. That's how God created us. So it's kind of a mixture of all those things together.
Oh, yes. This is great. Um, I'm curious, when you were learning about what a dysregulated system looks like, what were some of the surprising things where you're like, "Oh, geez, that's me."
Yeah. Even being startled quickly,
Okay, yep.
or when you're in the car and you going around the corner and I grab the handlebar. David calls that my brake because I'm like, ah, I'm braking. So
Mhm.
he helps me out there. But just little things like that and realizing even what things were stirring up anxiety in me. And why does that happen so quickly?
Yeah,
Now, so a lot of those connections were made for me. Um, yeah, I'm
yeah,
sure there's a lot more, but those are just some of the basic ones that I would experience on probably like a daily basis. I just thought it was kind of my quirky self, which part of
yeah.
it is, but part of it is not really regulated in that way.
Yeah, I've definitely heard that one and I'm like, "Oh, yeah," 'cause I'm very jumpy, and, I think I've heard about, like, your shoulders being high
Yes,
and
yes.
grinding your teeth and all
This,
sorts of things. Yeah,
yeah, our body's trying to tell us something.
for sure.
And sometimes we're just unaware of it and we're not paying attention. So I think it's important for us to do a little check-in several times a day, even when I'm at work, because I have a lot of clients and they bring me a lot of stuff. And so we're having conversations, and after each client, I kind of have to, shake it out because as a hairstylist, I can carry
Oh,
some of what they're bringing, and I want to be a place where people can come and share whatever they want to share. But I also have to recognize that sometimes I can then be in that emotional place as well. And so it's being able to recognize that. And,
yeah.
I'll do a couple laps around the salon and walk it out a little bit. And I always pray before my clients, and I recenter everything to be able to carry that for people.
That's amazing that you are so hyper aware of what you need to do to protect your system before and after those clients. That's awesome. I need to do that a lot before a lot of things because I'm more introverted than I think. And there's a lot of times when, yeah, I absorb a lot of things too. And I carry so much too. So that's a really good idea. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
And so, in the lines of more things to gift other people with, I want to close with um, a question that I think there's someone listening today who needed to hear your story. And there are plenty of people out there who are wanting to pursue something creative or return to an old part of themselves. So, for the person who wants to return to something and they just keep finding all the reasons to not do it, what would you want them to know?
Mm. I can't stress it enough. Don't be afraid. Fear is the enemy,
Yeah.
and it will destroy joy, and it will destroy peace. It destroys so much. It's not being afraid to go ahead and just try it. What's the worst thing that can happen? Have a tendency to be that person who is always like, worst case scenario.
Yes, same.
That never happens.
Right.
Never have any of my worst case scenarios happened ever. So what am I so afraid of? It was finally getting to the point where it was like, I don't need to let this imaginary thing hold me back anymore.
Yeah. Yeah.
So just moving forward and saying, you know what? I think some good is going to happen. Be curious with what could happen. And curiosity brings a sense of joy and excitement. And that's just the first step right there. And that will lead to good things.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Oh, I love that. I love that so much because it makes the idea of not being afraid. It's like, well, how do I not be afraid? Well, you just gave us a tangible question that we can ask ourselves. Like, what is the worst thing that can happen? And I would also challenge people to think if that worst case scenario does happen, then what? I'm not sure
Right.
how to really explain this,
It'll
but like,
still be okay.
exactly. Yes. Yes. That's what I was trying to say. Well, this has been delightful and you're amazing. And I'm grateful for you on so many levels and can't wait to see how everything unfolds. And when the table is ready for joining, sign me up.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me on here. I mean, you are just a joy and a blessing, and I love you dearly.
Oh, I love you. Well, have a wonderful day.
Thank you. You too.
All right, bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to today's episode of Not Till Now. I hope this conversation stirred something in you. Don't forget to check the show notes for a recap and ways to stay connected. And if you know someone in your life who needs permission, send this to them. See you next time.